Rodents will pick up the salmonella from the environment and it will amplify. So it will amplify, shed it to the environment, contaminates the feeds, and it will be again eaten by the bird. So another approach would be the contaminated or infected chicks from infected breeders. So we all know for a fact that salmonella is also capable of vertical transmission. So that's one another input that we need to consider with regards to introduction of salmonella.
Hello, this is Phil Stair. I'm here with Sherwin Camba. We are bringing to you Poultry Podcast from Wisenetics. We're going to talk about what Dr. Camba has to talk about. He is a renowned expert in the Philippines with Salmonella especially in poultry. So, Dr. Sherwin, if you would give some background about yourself, where you came from and how you got to where you are today.
So thank you, Phil. It's a great pleasure to be part of the Poultry Podcast Show. So I'm an assistant professor from the University of the Philippines Los Baños, and so prior to academe, so I work in the industry, so primarily in Japan. So I did my PhD at the Osaka Prefecture University as part of the grant uh, by the Poultry Products Quality Control PhD scholarship grant. So, Poultry Products Quality Control or PPQC was established by Dr. Hiromitsu Kato, which is a renowned poultry consultant based in Japan with almost 60 years of experience in the Japanese poultry industry. And at the age of 80, he's still working. He serves as a consultant in various commercial layer operations in eastern Japan. So that's around 30 to 40 million layers and almost 120 million layer chicks. So that's, I think, if you compare the eastern Japan layer industry, it is quite similar to Iowa State. So, and aside from the Japan, so he has some accounts in China as well. So at the age of 80, he's very energetic. So
One of AB Vista's core strategies is to give customers the flexibility to do more with less, which is a common theme among many companies and producers in today's industry. As a science-driven company, AB Vista has proven results to help our customers achieve optimal performance using customized programs with our core phytase and xylanase.
that's
But you're the younger generation now, though. You're going to carry this on, right? So your work that you did in Japan. Yeah, yes. What was your dissertation on in Japan?
yeah. So I work mainly on salmonella in layers. Um, so I studied the different salmonella serovar. So with regards to its epidemiology, so we tested various samples from commercial farms. We collected environmental samples, egg samples, feeds, and some carriers or vectors such as rodents. So aside from that, I did some experimental studies with the servars of Salmonella. So I conducted challenge studies, understanding the infectious dynamics of each pathogen. So there are almost 2,500 Salmonella servars, and not all of them are the same. So, especially Salmonella enteritidis, Typhimurium, those two servers are capable of doing systemic infection, and other salmonella they just stay in the gut, the intestinal tract. So, and that's part of my dissertation. So, to to characterize the most prevalent servars in the commercial poultry, and to add, so our lab in Japan, so they started monitoring for salmonella in 1993. So they monitored first the feeds and then eggs, and then eventually they added environmental samples and then rodent samples. So we have almost 30 years of data with regards of salmonella in layer. So if you've been to Japan, so Japanese are really like to eat raw eggs. So they serve it in rice. So they call it tamago kake gohan. So they serve hot rice and then put the raw eggs and then put some soy sauce, and then they love to eat it. So we all know for the fact that salmonella is mainly the case of salmonella. So it has been reported in humans. Re- uh, in humans wherein they consume contaminated poultry and eggs. So, as mentioned earlier, Japan has the strictest food safety law in the world. So that's why the need for food safety, uh, ensuring that the eggs are free for salmonella. So that's the purpose of our laboratory.
So that's great. So you can say, and I summarize in, I guess, 2 minutes or less, the 6 years of work. You said you looked at environmental samples and fomites and vectors. And so, in terms of salmonella getting into poultry products, your 6 years of study and 30 years of research that's behind that, what do you think? Is it environmental? Is it feed? Is it vertical? Where's it come from?
So very good question. So before, so the I was able to review all the data from the early 90s, and I've observed the changing of the prevalent serovar. So we've noticed, so most of the introduction of servars started from the feeds and then inputs as well. And then it will persist in the environment for longer periods of time. And then here comes the rodents. The rodents will pick up the salmonella from the environment, and it will amplify. So it will amplify, shed it to the environment, contaminates the feeds, and it will be again eaten by the bird. So another approach would be the contaminated or infected chicks from infected breeders. So we all know for a fact that salmonella is also capable of vertical transmission. So that's one another input that we need to consider with regards to introduction of salmonella. So aside from that, so I mentioned about rodents, and my dissertation also involved the study on how the rodents are able to infect the layer chicks. So we all know, or layer chickens. So we all know that salmonella, in terms of getting into the chicken, so mostly orally, but there are limited studies with regards to the respiratory route of salmonella. So that is basically my one of my topics in my PhD. So I did some experimental studies wherein I infected chickens via intratracheal, so respiratory route, and we found some interesting results, and these were published in Avian Pathology.
I saw that article. Yes. Let's go ahead. I was just going to say it varies by serotype, though, right? What your results are, where it inhabits the bird.
Yeah, so I compared different serovars. So I used Salmonella enteritis, obviously, and other environmental Salmonella, such as Infantis, Bandaca, and Potsdam. So basically, Salmonella Infantis, Potsdam, and Bandaca are from the same serogroup, which is O7 group or C group. So um, and based on my research, so we found out, or I was able to differentiate, or we observed the difference with regards to the systemic infection of Salmonella enteritidis. So we found out that uh, the Salmonella enteritidis, Bandaca, and Potsdam was able to infect the the birds via the respiratory route, but it for some reason, so it got localized in the intestinal tract. However, for Salmonella enteritidis, so it spread to spleen, so to internal organs of the infected chicks. So we uh, need more study on why is it the with regards to the difference in dynamics of the infection of different reservoirs. So that's interesting. So it validates our field observation with regards to the environmental contamination of different salmonella.
If I can ask a question, what would be the implications of intervention? You talk about different serovars and how they inhabit the bird. Would that have implications, say, for vaccination? Some would be better vaccine candidates than others.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So in Japan, so most Japanese layer farms are vaccinating for salmonella. So they are using inactivated or killed. So the Japanese don't allow live vaccination. So um, based on our data, so they started vaccinating maybe 20 years ago. That's 2006, 2007, during the height of the Salmonella enteritidis problem in Japan, the peak of the cases in Yuma. So the government so basically required all the farms to vaccinate. So and based on that, so most farms who vaccinates. So the component of the vaccine, so it is consist of mainly two. So Salmonella enteritidis and Typhimurium, which is the two most important Salmonella reservoirs in humans. And also they added Salmonella infantis. And we all know for a fact that Salmonella infantis is now creating concern in the US and Europe. But in Japan, they had the problem uh, for almost 20 years ago. So uh, some of our clients, so they are using trivalent vaccine, inactivated vaccine, for the control of salmonella. But again, based on our my research, so uh, vaccines are effective. So we managed to eliminate Salmonella enteritidis infantis. However, this is the catch. There are other serovars who emerge. So such as Salmonella Potsdam, Bandaka. So especially if the farm is infested by rodents, so they serve as amplifiers. And I think based on my research, they are now serves as a mixing vessel of emerging Salmonella serovar. So despite vaccination, it is still not perfect. So as part of my future research, so I'm also now focusing on the control measures of different disease. So when I was in Japan, we studied the different pathogens, so viral pathogens, bacterial pathogens. But right now, so I'm now focusing on control, so vaccine production, on how do we medicate or approach or supplement the birds? How do we manage the birds so that they will be not be stressed? So those are the things that I'm doing in terms of research.
Okay, great. So let me get back to your research in Japan before we leave Japan and come to the Philippines, where you are now. In terms of the salmonella control, we talk about vaccination, and you say it's not a silver bullet. It helps,
Yeah.
and particularly when it's targeted in the U.S. Salmonella has been a much broader spectrum. It's been a whole genre, not just specific serovars. And so, as you said, you may push one down, another one will pop up. That just seems like the nature of nature. If you put pressure on one system, will come back. So, in your research back to Japan, we've been working for, like you said, 30 years. All the interventions, would you go through, maybe prioritize the interventions that you think would be efficacious or have proven efficacious to reduce salmonella, particularly enteritis, but any salmonella in final poultry products?
So that's again a great question. But with regards to salmonella control, there is we need to do more holistic approach. So we combine again, vaccination, especially rodent control, because these rodents play a key role in amplifying the salmonella, and then also ensuring the feeds. The feed should be free as much as possible of salmonella, and then the overall biosecurity and management of the birds. So uh, it has to be integrated. And one thing that we need to ensure is to do surveillance or monitoring. So the problem with salmonella, there are 2,500 serovacs, right? And not all of them, if uh, all, the birds, if they are infected by salmonella, they don't show any clinical signs. So except for Salmonella pullorum and gallinarum. So that's a problem with salmonella. That's why the key here is diagnostics. The key here is surveillance in order to determine whether our control measures are effective or not.
Good. That's very helpful. So let's go. Let's now move to the Philippines, where you are now. You've been there a professor for some years, and you're quite involved both with academia and then also in governmental agencies and then privately as well. So talking about pathogens, what all pathogens are you working on there in the Philippines?
So aside from Salmonella, obviously being part of the National Salmonella Control Program, so I'm also the head of the avian influenza control of our professional group, the Philippine College of Poultry Practitioners, which is the advisory group of the Philippine government uh, for the control of avian influenza in the Philippines. So we collaborate with the government in crafting the avian influenza control program, the manual of procedure. So that's the guidebook wherein farmers, so they will just check all the protocols, all the procedures uh, if they have suspected cases of avian influenza. So we updated this year. We're undergoing updates uh, with the manual. So because the virus keeps on changing, right? So the manual needs to adapt to the changes as well. So we added the provision for vaccination, by the way, and uh, other components such as in, support and the improved surveillance of avian influenza, especially in wild birds.
So there in the Philippines, you're all allowing vaccination now, and then what's your prevalence in the commercial industry? Is it much there? I don't hear much about the Philippines. We're more U.S. focused, but
Yeah. So last year, the government crafted the guidelines for vaccination as a complementary tool for the control of avian influenza. So uh, the main control is still the traditional one, but uh, in 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 the Philippines, so since we don't have that much support when it comes to supporting the farmers if they got hit by the virus, so the due to of lack of funding, so vaccination can be part of the solution. But again, vaccination is not 100% cannot protect 100% the flock from the virus, but it helps mitigating the risk of the disease. But again, there in terms of trials, it's now ongoing. They started earlier this year, and hopefully next year they will be able to implement vaccination.
so how much influenza is there in the Philippines? Is it still commonly occurring? Pretty common.
Like in 2022, the number of cases dramatically decreased. So almost similar to the US, I think, and other countries. So we had the worst outbreak of avian influenza in 2022. So almost 2 million birds were affected. And again, uh, the cases are still ongoing as of this moment.
It's been mostly in the egg producers or the meat chickens, or is it other? ducks or?
So good question. So the most cases were reported from ducts, from layers, because most of the housing systems in layers are open. So unlike in the U.S. or Japan or other countries, wherein mostly are closed systems. So the risk of interaction with the wild birds to the commercial flocks. So that's why layers were severely affected.
So you've been working with two big diseases, Salmonella and Avian influenza. What other pathogens are you working on? What other?
Yeah, so just earlier this year, we went to China with my sensei, Dr. Kato, and we are now also doing some collaborative research on duck diseases. So China has a big duck industry over there, and there are many interesting diseases in ducks that we still need to explore. There are lack of information with regards to duck diseases, and that's, I think, one of my research agenda moving forward.
Is that mostly pathology, virology, and bacteriology? I guess all of it would be everything and wrapped up there.
The key here is collaboration. So I work with other scientists. So from University of the Philippines, the College of Veterinary Medicine, and from my laboratory in Japan, and also in my university in Japan, the Osaka Prefecture University. So the key here is collaboration. So we work together in order to come up with solution to most poultry diseases.
So, do you have any new duck diseases you got a name to put to? Any Cambian disease?
We're still working on it.
We had an earlier conversation. You talked about not just we're looking at the pathogen, but looking at the host. You talked about some biosecurity and some immunity. Maybe you want to discuss some of the projects you have going with that.
Yeah. So right now, as part of my research, so I'm also interested um, in terms of evaluating various disinfectants. So especially for adenoviruses. So adenoviruses, which causes inclusion body hepatitis. So that's another disease who created an impact in the broiler industry 2 years ago. So there are many cases of IBH. And the problem with adenovirus is that it is quite resistant to some disinfectants. So part of my research is to evaluate what is the best disinfectant in order to address adenovirus. And we all know that adenoviruses are non-envelope, so non-envelope type of virus. So I think aside from that, so disinfectant, of course, um, again, so biosecurity. So um, we need to rethink how biosecurity is being implemented in the Philippines. So there is a quite challenge on how to being compliant with regards to biosecurity. So in the Philippines, so that's the challenge for us practitioners. So how do we ensure the biosecurity procedures in our farm clients? So even in the backyards or small scale farmers, so they're not quite aware with the importance of biosecurity. So
That's a problem worldwide. I think a great program and implementation is always the issue. You can show people what to do. Yes. So, in terms of your model, how are you all testing disinfectants against adenovirus? Do you have some type of model that you're all using?
great question. So we use the cell culture. So we in Japan. So one of my colleagues able to grow the virus by cell culture. So more on in vitro approach, and then we evaluated the different disinfectants if it is
Our
effective or not.
famous
So, you're
three.
doing it in vitro. You're not doing it on metal surfaces or putting a virus on.
So initially in vitro, and then later on, once we had the initial results, so we will try in the surface or the actual farm. So that's we're still in the earlier phase of the research.
Okay, that's good. So disinfection part of the intervention. How about other biosecurity measures? Are there it's a part of influenza, I guess for sure, but are there governmental outreaches to farmers? Do you all have a program or I want to say standard operating procedure that you provide to farmers? Is there some type of
Yeah.
education, I guess, maybe?
So as mentioned earlier, the Avian Influenza Protection Program, the manual of procedures, it has the list of all the procedures on how to be prepared with regards to 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 preventing the incursion of the disease to the farm. So that includes bird proofing. So we also provided the list of disinfectants, all the basically what is needed for the prevention of not just bird flu. So it can also be applied to other diseases as well.
So, what would be some more of the common diseases in the Philippines? Influenza apparently is on the decline, which is good news. But Salmonella, of course, is always a constant pressure everywhere. Um, what other diseases do you all deal with in poultry?
Prior to avian influenza, so Newcastle disease is the basically public enemy number one. So we reported the first case of influenza only in 2017, but prior to that, it's always Newcastle. So Newcastle. So and it's still there because of the most emergent or the most common genotype, which is genotype 7. So even though we have vaccines, uh, uh, all types of vaccines, I think, available, all new technologies, there are still cases of Newcastle. And aside from that, IV or infectious bronchitis is also prevalent. And as mentioned earlier, adenoviruses, so which more into broilers, so adenoviruses, and the common gut disease. So you have coccidiosis, so E. coli as well. So basically that's it. Those and also some immunosuppressive disease such as infectious bursal disease. So those are the top diseases in the Philippines.
And Merrick's not an issue there, or is it? Or
A problem. So, especially in breeder operations, layer operations. So, as a practicing vet, so we have farm clients, so broiler breeder clients, layer breeder clients. So, Marex is also an issue.
it might be helpful too to describe just again the Philippines, folks like myself that have never been there, the industry. The U.S. and most of the is vertically integrated, and I know in Canada it's less so, in Europe less so. So in the Philippines, could you describe the industry some?
Yeah. So the poultry industry is, I think, the rock star of the Philippine agriculture. Amongst the different sectors of the Philippine agriculture, only the poultry industry registered the growth. Only the growth is growing for almost 10 years already. Unlike in swine, fisheries, they are all negative in terms of growth. That's how very big the industry is. So mainly the broiler industry is the main. So in terms of uh, um, value of production. So now they are number one, followed by the layer industry. So third would be the game fowl industry, and then fourth is duck industry. So with regards to vertical integration, so the broiler industry, so we have few players, so big players. So we have San Miguel Foods, Bounty, and then CP from Thailand also started to invest in the field in broiler operations. So you have also Cargill uh, in collaboration with Jollibee. So they established an integration business. So the broiler industry is quite big, but despite that, the local production cannot meet the demand of the market. because the Philippines has almost 100 million population, and we still need to import in order to supply the needs of the market. And you see the potential for growth. And with regards to the layer industry, the Philippines, in terms of per capita consumption, we're still very below the global average of, I think, 160 eggs per capita per year. So we're only consuming 100 eggs to 140 eggs per capita per year. Still way below, and we need to promote consumption of eggs in the Philippines. So that's part of my job as a professor. So I'm encouraging all the students to eat egg, eat poultry, so that all so we able to ensure the nutrition of all the Filipinos. So again, no, so that's all because I'm from the industry as well. So it helps our clients, and again improves the overall nutrition of the Filipino. So malnourishment is still a problem in the Philippines.
That's very informative. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's something I didn't know. I guess the Poultry Podcast is big on getting worldwide knowledge to everybody. So this is great to have. I have not met you before today to have this conversation to understand more about the Philippine poultry industry, particularly your work with Salmonella and even influenza. That's worldwide. I think the lessons you've shared from your PhD as well as your research, very informative. I've learned something. And again, we struggle with everywhere, how to stop salmonella. And I think you said it well. It's a multiple approach. It's not just one thing, no silver bullets there. So something else that you'd like to talk about? We're got through some very good topics today and discussed your past and your present. Maybe talk about the future. What do you foresee going forward?
Yeah, so that's interesting. So as mentioned earlier, I'm now more focused on doing research on how to deal with these disease challenges. So um, the virus are mutating, the bacteria are mutating as well. The emergence of various antimicrobial resistances. So I'm now focusing more on the control aspect. So I think that's it. That's the research that I'm gonna focus more moving forward, and hopefully through collaboration with other countries, so we'll be having a solution hopefully. So for the again, in order to protect the industry, to ensure the food security, not just in the Philippines but globally. So by 2050, I think there will be, I think, 10 billion peoples that 10 billion that we need to feed. So that's why we need to think how to maximize the efficiency with regards to production. So not just in broilers but in layers as a whole. No? So that includes wine, other commodities. So that's a big challenge, I think, moving forward over the uh, next years.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. We'll probably wrap it up here.
It's time for our famous three. A worldwide leader in animal nutrition, Adiseo's portfolio of products includes methionine, the full range of vitamins, enzymes, organic selenium, probiotics, mycotoxin management strategies, and palatability products. With such a diverse offering, Adiseo supports its customers with a broad range of expertise, tools, and services to help them maintain a competitive advantage. Adiseo, fueling predictable profits. To learn more, visit Adiseo at www.adiseo.com.
There's three more questions they've asked, and this is not necessarily for general consumption. It's more, yeah, okay. So the question they ask is, what is your favorite book or resource?
Wow. So this is my book.
Now look at him. He's ready. He's ready.
My favorite book, Chicken Nutrition.
Cooking nutrition.
So
You're a veterinarian, right?
I'm veterinary, but I'm also interested in nutrition. So understanding the so ho- in terms of how to ensure the health of the birds through nutrition. So I'm also working on my skills with regards to nutrition. So I also work with nutritionists. So because the problem with immunosuppression, I think aside from supplementing with immunostimulant, so I think nutritional approach would be the better option in managing these immunosuppressive disease, as mentioned earlier, Marex, IBD. So that's why I'm studying more. I'm reading the book. So by Chicken Nutrition by Rick Clelin.
Okay, good. So here's the next question: is what's your favorite book or resource outside of agriculture?
I read about the more on autobiography. So it is about the life of Dr. Teodoro Topacio. He's also a veterinary in the Philippines, and his autobiography is my favorite. So yeah, he's one of my inspiration with my practice. So he studied more on leptospirosis in the Philippines.
Oh, yeah, okay, not chickens. No. Yeah, yeah. So here's the third question. In your opinion, what sets successful poultry professionals from those that are not successful?
Oh, very tricky question. So I think it comes with the pursuing for new knowledge, continuously learning. So continuously updating of your belief or understanding of a certain topic. I think that's what separates the successful ones to the outdated outdated practitioners. So the continuous improvement. So continuous learning.
Sherwin's so good. I don't know when I'll get your way, or you ever get to the United States? You ever get to any of the scientific meetings over here?
Yeah. So I attended 2 years ago IPPE. Hopefully, I'll be going to the Triple AP next year. I don't know where it will be held. Where is it?
Portland, Oregon next year.
Oregon. So I'm planning to go to Triple
Good.
AP. So I attended the online the online
Okay. Yes.
online
Yes.
session. So hopefully as well the Western Poultry Conference. So
Yes.
that's April, I think, and then the Triple AP. The main target is Triple AP, and hopefully I'll see you there.
Yeah. I usually go every year.
Ah, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Wise really appreciates the time you spent, Dr. Camba, with us and sharing your knowledge and experiences. And so, folks, we appreciate y'all checking in, and go ahead and follow Poultrycast on their podcast. And this topic, among others, will be on there as well.